guys, what's up and welcome to another episode of the Goodcast Show. So it's my second guest from the party BERSATU. The first, as you all know it, was Datuk Sri Hamzah. So we're very excited to have another big man from BERSATU itself. It's an honor to have him today. He's the Ketua Penerangan ARMADA BERSATU Malaysia, the Ketua Bahagian BERSATU Balik Pulau. So please welcome our second guest from BERSATU, as I said, Harris Idaham Rashid. So Harris, thank you for coming on the podcast. We know there's a lot of things I want to discuss with you. And again, I hope that this will lead to many more members from past BERSATU wanting to come on. I've invited everyone, so I hope that you will be the one that opens the floodgates. Sure. So let's get your view on this current issue now. The Federal Court Judge, Chief Justice Tun Tengku Maimun Tuan Mat's retirement. What is your opinion on this whole issue regarding the successor and etc.? What's your thoughts?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much, Vinod.
You're welcome.
And the Goodcast Show podcast for inviting me here. First of all, thanks for giving young people voice to speak in this kind of podcast. I've been following your podcast.
Thank you, man.
You have a very big following and stuff like that.
Pity, huh?
And today, it's not about bashing the government or promoting the opposition. Today is about having a open discussion regarding our country and what's best for the country and also for the people.
Okay.
Going to your question regarding the gap in the top judiciary. So we have our previous Chief Justice, Tengku Maimun, and President Court of Appeal, who retired on the same day, 1st of July. And now the President of the High Court Judge is undertaking the responsibilities at the moment. So this is something that is creating a huge debate outside, whether or not it's healthy to have this gap at the top for the number one and number two posts. As a Malaysian, I would love to know in advance whether or not a person is extended or going to retire for good. And if she is going for good after serving as a Chief Justice for 6 years, it's a long period of time. We do not want to politicize this issue regarding whether or not she should be extended because they have a commission, and then the federal constitution allows
6 months, I think, right?
Yeah. 6 months. Yang di-Pertuan Agong finally decides, acting on the advice of Prime Minister. So we do not want to politicize that thing so much. But as a Malaysian, and the judiciary is an important element of any country. It's an independent body. So we would want to know a replacement almost seamlessly. If a top judge leave on the 1st of July, I really hope to have a successor on the 2nd of July, so that there is no gap.
Correct. Because
judiciary is constantly undergoing reform. Without having the apex post filled, it's difficult for the judiciary to move forward. That's number one. Number two, you can't afford to have top two of your most senior judge leave on the same day and not having replacement. I'm not too sure who to blame, but I'm sure all these appointments are basically done by the government. Obviously, there is a procedure. Nobody is saying that it's fully Prime Minister's power, but it's a procedure. But
he advises the king.
He advises the king. That's number one. Number two, it is not something new that we know Tengku Maimun is going to leave on the 1st of July and the President of Court of Appeal. This is something that they have already known a long time ago because it is when they expire. So I'm pretty sure you have to work backwards in order for you to fill up properly, in order for you to give time for procedures to take place, for the commission to sit. I'm sure you need to give enough time. And then obviously when you give to the king, he also needs time to deliberate the matter, because the king also needs to consult Conference of Rulers. So you have to respect everybody's time. Therefore, all these things have to be done in advance, probably early this year.
But I think the issue here is that, of course, people are pointing out that considering PMX's current ongoing civil case, that there may be a conflict of interest for him to participate in the advising even of the king, firstly. And secondly, of course, the sort of proposed successor is going against the standards of, say, seniority within the ranks and all that. So what do you say to that?
Okay, I have a few things. Regarding appointments, I would like to take two institutions at one time.
Okay.
So we saw Azam Baki was extended for being a brave person, the bravest guy in MACC. Tengku Maimun is not. And then we have another situation in the police. Ayub Khan is also known to be a very brave person in the eyes of Malaysian, but he is not promoted, or he is not promoted to be the top cop. So in this particular matter, there are a few important cases that are going on in courts. Number one is Zaid Hamidi's DNA appeal, and then of course Syed Sadiq's final appeal, or the government is appealing the decision, and the Kevin Moraes murder, and of course the biggest elephant in the room is, okay, the court has decided no immunity for Prime Minister regarding Yusof Rawther's civil case, and Yusof Rawther's case is in two parts. What was decided is the civil matter, but you have the criminal matter that is not touched yet. So I know you can't silence the people. Obviously, everybody would pay attention to that. So, but like I said, to soften the matter, you have to appoint fast so that the issue goes to bed quickly, rather than you allow all this time. Today it has been 1 week, and we have yet hear all these things. But I would like to bridge this point to another point regarding appointments of important strategic posts. If you remember, Nazri Aziz as well, the case of the ambassador to the United States.
Yes.
He expired right after the swearing in of Donald Trump, and we waited so long before we sent another rep there. In fact, he just got his watika about a month ago. But then during that critical period, there was a change of government in the US. There was a tariff hike that could really affect us because we are a trade country. But I'm not too sure I'm not too sure why we delay that. I think this is something urgent because you cannot expect to send Tengku Zafrul and the MITI gang every time to go negotiate. You need to have your rep there, and that's what ambassador is for.
Yes.
But yeah, somehow or other, they keep on delaying all these pertinent matters, and sometimes you wonder why. You wonder why. Because similar to this case, the government exactly knew when Nazri would expire because it's contract. You sign it with him. So what's up with that? That's number one. Number two, being part of the government before, I was in the ministry working with reporting to a minister. I know that for countries like US or probably other countries, when you name an ambassador, they will need to study the guy first, and they will tell you whether or not they agree with that guy, and you need to respect their time and jurisdiction on that. So similar to this, you would know that when Trump goes in, it's a new government. Everything is going to be busy. Changes, policies, new secretaries, new senates, everything. Probably not new senates because that's just a presidential election. But when you have a new guy leading the country, there'll be a lot of changes. So we should again work behind time and work faster. Probably install another ambassador before Biden leaves so that it's quicker to get things done. But then this is where we are.
Okay. Just on that point where you brought up the issue of Prime Minister's request for immunity, is there any part of you that may agree that being the Prime Minister at this moment, considering the political, economical climate that we are living in currently, with all the changes, not even locally but internationally, that perhaps to put this case off until his Prime Ministership comes to an end would be for the would serve the country better as opposed to distracting him with cases like this and causing more political instability?
Very good question, Vinod. Yes, the law has that provision, and that's why he has used that provision to request for this immunity. And the court has viewed this whole thing as a whole. But in my opinion, it really depends on what kind of issue is this. If the issue is minor, or if the issue is something that can be put aside for a while, KIV for a while, I think we have an argument so that the top guy can focus on his job, so that he can focus on the economy, focus on leading the government and stuff like that. But the main issue in this case is a criminal issue. The Yusof Rawther allegation was a criminal allegation. And it's something that, if it's true, he has been found guilty on that similar charge or similar action before. Whether or not he was pardoned is a separate matter. But few courts have found him guilty on that. So obviously, when you have a repeated offense, it is more serious than before. I'm not too sure whether or not you can delay it. Yes, Anwar Ibrahim is an important figure for the country. He's leading the government, no doubt. But Yusof Rawther is also a human being. He's also a Malaysian, and his rights also protected under the law. So you cannot just erase his allegation. So I think what is important is good immunity is not given, and we would like to know what will happen to the allegation. What will happen to the thing? Is he going to be charged, or are you going to drop the case, or is he going to be silent forever? So this is something that we want to see.
Recently, I think just a few hours ago, YB Rafizi held a press conference where he was bringing this issue about the Chief Justice appointment and all that that things around it. Now, in his press conference, he of course quoted two infamous examples. One of it was the 1988 judicial crisis feature with Tun Saleh Abbas, the Lord President of the Supreme Court, who was suspended and then removed by a tribunal that was set up by the Tun Mahathir's government at that time. And he was found guilty of misconduct. And then, of course, we have the VK Lingam video clip, which was an infamous video clip. Even I remember it from 2007.
Correct.
So is this a sign that political interference is just a Malaysian way? And is it naive for us to assume that this system can be reformed? And also on that, considering that members of your party, BERSATU, was once part of this BN regime of the past, where there were many allegations from the opposition of interference in appointments of these important people. Can we trust you all to reform if you come into government? And on another part, is this just a way that we should accept that reforms in this area is not being realistic?
So the first one was Tun Saleh Abbas,
Yes.
and then after that was Vicky Lingam.
Lingam.
Our country is much more mature today. So obviously, Malaysia as a developing nation, we were younger back then. We are more mature now. We had gone through a lot of things since then. First change of government, another change of government, another mixture of government. Nobody finally got a majority. So we have gone through a lot of phases since then. So if you ask me, probably last time when things were new, when our system was not ready for full transparency, probably executive had tremendous power to install whoever they want and stuff like that. But now, since we have grown so much, we also have the JAC now.
Yes.
Because last time we didn't have JAC. It was straight PM to Agong. So now we have JAC. We really hope that JAC is really doing their part. Because if you have JAC and if you don't allow them to do their part, then the purpose is very minimal.
Okay.
And I kind of like when Tengku Maimun mentioned that the Prime Minister's role has to be removed from judicial appointment. Basically, number one, I'm not too sure whether or not it contradicts the Perlembagaan, because the Perlembagaan says that Prime Minister advise the King and the King appoints. But I think what she is saying is JAC should be empowered, so that they really determine and they really discuss, and they would probably know better. But then again, back to your question, if we come into power and stuff like that. But to give a lot of power to JAC also is not healthy. Because,
why so?
Yeah, because
Interesting.
Because abuse of power can happen anywhere. It can happen in Prime Minister's office. It can happen in the palace. It can happen in JAC. So what is good for the country is to have a system that nobody has too much power, so that everybody is kept in check. But if you ask me, JAC should be given a good amount of consideration in whatever they suggest, because this is regarding judiciary, this is regarding law, this is regarding our organ, and I'm not too sure if anyone else know better regarding judiciary than them. But obviously, to begin with, the JAC members has to be very respected, highly regarded, and stuff like that. That's number one. Number two, I think all these things, because it's a very important matter, something that Pakatan Harapan was also championing before, I think it should be brought to Parliament as well. Not to be decided, but to be discussed, to be deliberated, so that you get views from Member of Parliament that is there on behalf of citizens. So I think that is also another aspect that we would do.
Is all of this that you're suggesting merely a ceremonial, that the Malaysian people should look at it as, like I said, because lost ground is lost forever. And I think previously, before 1988, the reason why Tun Saleh Abbas also went through what he did was because there was many decisions whereby the Chief Justice actually went against the government. I don't see a government in the future, whether you guys or even PH, doesn't matter, saying, you know what, it's okay, let's give that power back to the JAC and all this. Do you ever think that this will happen? That there will be a clear divide between the judiciary and the executive?
Well, I'm not too sure about clear divide, but I think what is important to take place is you give enough consideration to JAC. You give enough weightage to them. And as a government, if you can control a judiciary and if that thing is known publicly, it's not good for the country.
Of course.
Yeah. So I think Perikatan Nasional do not also want to control the judiciary. No.
So you guys will empower the JAC?
I will believe so. We will empower the JAC. But to begin with, like I said, the JAC members has to be respected, have to be clean, have to be principled, so that people don't question this cartel and all these things. So once they are respected, I believe the decision that they made will also be respected.
Okay, fair enough. So,
Yeah.
guys, you have that to look forward to when PN takes over. You heard it from the ARMADA head. Now, let's go to the next topic, which is SST. This has been, again, a widely debated topic and a lot of public backlash daily, right? What are your thoughts on the SST expansion?
All right. So 1st of July, you see 5 to 10% expansion on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Basically, they are saying that to capture wider group, but they are saying that they are trying to be fair. They are going to capture people who are spending on luxury items, on non-essential goods and stuff like this. Obviously, there were some U-turns on imported apples, imported oranges, mandarin oranges, dates and stuff like that.
And also to plant vegetables in your backyard.
Yes.
Don't forget.
Yes, and also PM promoted local avocado that came from Borneo, Sabah, Sarawak kind of thing. So that's one. But I think I also read a lot on what the on the businesses say, on what they say. So they are saying that fair enough, the expansion is on all these things, but definitely there will be going to be a ripple effect, and this ripple effect is going to hurt the people, because when businesses suffer more costs, that they will pass the cost to us. What I think, before we decide whether or not to expand our tax base, whether or not to expand to other things that we have not taxed before, first of all, you have to understand what is the situation of our public today. Especially what is their financial position today. How stretched are they? So that one you have to decide first. If they are already stretched almost to full extent, I don't think it's a good time for you to implement and introduce these kind of things. That's why the Westminster system, MPs also take position in cabinet so that you understand what the people are facing before you decide on tax and stuff like that. So I believe that Malaysians are not ready for this. I believe that they are already quite stretched. But I also believe that the government might not have enough revenue. But what I would suggest is, before you look at your people, why don't you find other sources? Or why don't you reduce your operating expenses that is heavily criticized by people? People are suggesting that our operating expenses is very high in the government and stuff like that. So why don't you find other revenues for you to get those few billions, rather than looking at the people and tapping their money? So
But on that point, let's go to the stats first, right? So the Malaysia's tax to GDP ratio was only 12.2% in 2022 and has risen to 13.2% now in Q3 of 2024. But we still trail Thailand, 16%. Our national debt standing is at 1.22 trillion, which is around 63% of GDP as of April 2024. Now, for those of you who are watching, in economic terms, generally this ratio should be about 50%, 50 to 60% of GDP. Now, what the counter argument is that this expansion was needed to ensure fiscal stability, right? What you are saying is that you based on what you said, you hope that you say that people are not ready. So it's a chicken and egg situation. The government is forced to maintain their fiscal health by expanding SST. should they wait for the people to have greater income? Because then you are putting the country's stability at risk, and then you are coming back again to the fact that when the economy is not stable, when we are at threat, a fiscal threat, that will eventually impact the people in a much bigger way. And on the second point is that when you look at our neighboring countries like Singapore, their percentage is higher. They have increased it as well. Indonesia will increase as well, I think to 12% in 2025. New Zealand charges, I think, 10% as well, tax. So the expansion of tax is something a lot of countries use. So based on what you have said, what is your alternative? Should the country or the government wait for the people to be high income, focus on that when they need to make up this sort of drop in revenue and all that to increase tax so that they can re-spend back, reinvest into the economy? What should they do?
All right, thank you. First of all, regarding the tax base, that was actually the intention of GST. When Najib introduced GST, that was the issue that you mentioned, and GST was the answer back then. And GST captures a bigger market. So if you are saying let's bring up the percentage, GST it is. Secondly, the reason why our tax base is not really going up like other countries that you mentioned, I'm not sure about their data on wage increment, but our wage increment is not going as steady as the cost of living.
Of course.
Yeah, I think that's given.
Yeah.
Any government would agree on that. So the government have a big political decision and also economic decision to make. They know that the wage is not increasing well. It is increasing, but in a very, very, very slow pattern. But if you want to increase tax, you want to increase stuff like that, they also would know that the quality of life will drop. Because same amount of money, higher cost of living equals to lower quality of life. So I think what previous governments did was they needed the money, but they tried to look elsewhere. Foreign direct investment, reducing here, reducing there, making sure that making sure that the taxes are not leaked, making sure that people who are supposed to pay tax, although it's 12%, but making sure that they pay. GST had the rebate system as well last time. So I think that was how this country was combating this issue, by looking for other sources, by looking at other revenues. But when you can't, or when there is none, then you have to look at your people and try to implement all these things. But however, whether or not it's the right time is a separate matter, because all these things are things that you can plan. You know exactly how much you need per year for the country to grow. Nobody is saying don't grow. Everybody knows that the government is not welfare. We don't give freebies. The government's job is to manage the country.
Yeah.
Be responsible to the economy. Be responsible to Rakyat's life and all those things. So we really understand that because we've been in government before. But at the same time, these are the things that you can plan. So when you can plan, you cannot introduce all these things at once. For example, SST 1st of July. TNB tariff electricity hike 1st of July. And then recently, Datuk Sri Amir Hamzah, the second finance minister, now acting economic minister, appeared on one podcast just a few days ago.
Close job, yeah.
He has confirmed RON 95 subsidy will be pulled out before end of the year. Confirmed. But not, belum tahu exact date, but that was what he said. So these three things in a year or in 6 months, because two things were in 1st of July. And
but I think the RON has already been mentioned to us last year.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Mentioned.
Yeah.
It will be implemented this year.
But not when. We didn't know when.
Yeah. So now it has been confirmed before end of the year. So from 1st of July, electricity tariff hike and also SST expansion to that date would be about 5 months, 6 months. So why do you introduce three things that would increase cost of living in the span of 5 months? I think this is something that has to be also looked at. And not to forget, Ops Gasak was another thing. The purple cylinder gas that was supposed to be rolled out already, in fact, in May, where all the hawkers, traders, gerais and all, from using the green cylinder, 20 over ringgit, now they have to upgrade to the purple cylinder, 14 kilo, that is 70 ringgit. And that will also increase cost of living because ordinary small restaurant would use about 10 cylinders per month. That is around 2,600 ringgit. The same cylinders, new charges, that will be 7,000 ringgit. Big cost rise to them. They will pass it to us. So that's one. But luckily, I heard they delayed it or something, right?
Yeah.
They delayed it.
Because the backlash, yeah.
The backlash. And we were one of the main components who made a lot of noise due to this. Because we are not asking don't go up, but the timing. So three or four things are going to go up in a span of very short time.
So it's too big a shock, you're saying.
Too big of a shock.
Yeah.
That is not management. That is just rash. So that's my opinion.
But what do you say to the things, the critique? I think, of course, that's coming from your block as well, and also the public, when you see that despite these increases in cost of living, you are seeing projects like Kota Madani. You are seeing, and this relates to your party, where recently I think the Prime Minister has said that he approved travels for Tun Mahathir amounting to close to 500,000. So I mean, how does that measure in all of this? Should the government stay away from these projects for time being and focus on, for example, increasing the size of the economy and all that, instead of promoting these sort of things?
Good. First of all, Prime Minister announced that civil servants will get higher salary.
Yes.
So he increased civil servant salary early this year, if I'm not wrong, right? And then Kota Madani will take about 4 billion. And then Kota Madani, they say that it's privately funded. But I heard that Putrajaya Holdings is a developer, and Petronas owns Putrajaya Holdings, something like that.
So at the end of the day, it's sort of tax.
At the end of the day, it's like from one pocket to another pocket. At the end of the day, it's our pocket.
Yes.
But talking about this, yes. First of all, they have to balance between making popular announcements and making sure you have money to support those announcements.
Yeah.
And when I say you have money, not by taxing lah. Because if you simply tax, then you don't need to be very, very competent to lead a government, because that is simple maths. No money, ask for the people. But regarding timing, again, nobody is saying don't go up. Nobody is saying it's not. Nobody is saying the last time, because certain people are saying that the last time this thing was increased long time ago, it's due, it's time and stuff like that. I'll give you one example. Electricity tariff hike 1st of July. Apparently they have, fair enough. It's a new system of calculating. Last time there was a 5-tier system in calculation, and now it's only 2. It's either you are 1,500 kilowatt hour below or more.
Yeah.
So if below 27.03 cent or more, 37.03 cent. And then obviously you have other charges. That's just energy, and then you have capacity charge, network charge, and retail charge. At the end of the day, basically it will go up lah. Basically it's a hike lah. It's just that a hike with explanation and with detailed jadwal and stuff like that. That's how corporate does work lah. For example, Petronas called their exercise right sizing. So it's a beautiful term. At the end of the day, people losing jobs lah, basically, right? Whatever you call it.
Yeah.
But going back to the tariff hike, going back to tariff hike, whether or not it's a right time. 2024, TNB clocked 4.69 billion of net profit. They're in healthy situation. The profit surged nearly 70%. Surge of nearly 70%. So why can't you delay that? You are in a good situation. The company is healthy, clocking crazy amount of profit. But why do you introduce it now when you are also introducing SST, and also you're going to pull out RON 95 subsidy, and also this OPGASA also you have started? It's just that you stopped because of pressure. So why do you add this electricity hike when TNB is clocking 4.69 billion profit? Not many people understand this actually.
Now, just to go back on this SST matter, I know we have touched a lot about the tariffs, but I just want to go back to SST. Now, what you're saying is your option, your alternative is to focus on alternative means of raising money for your country, for the government, and I do agree with that. But if you look at an example recently, when you guys were in government, YB Azmin Ali actually but he actually got it through, which is CPTPP. Am I saying it right? I think CPTPP. And because of that, recently, after many years, we exported palm oil to the UK, if I'm not mistaken, to the EU or something like that. I can't remember whether it's EU or the UK. and which is because of that. And no tariffs, and we exported a new market for our oil palm industry.
Definitely.
The government has now allocated 1 billion to MITI to actually go us. Is it mostly or MITI? I can't remember, but to go out and explore other markets for us to export, which is trade diversification. All this takes time. The pressing matter is that we need to ensure our fiscal health. So don't you think that would be the main reason why we have to expand our SST? Let's not talk about tariffs. I do agree. But we have to expand our SST because that is the quick solution to a very dire problem that, if left unchecked, can threaten we could become another Sri Lanka, for example. So that is why the SST expansion needed to happen.
True, yeah. Like I said, I know that the government has to be responsible for the economy. And let's say if you want to expand SST, and let's say because in opposition we're not privy to the numbers, we don't listen to presentations that is done by MOF or all those things. So I might not have as much detail as the Prime Minister or the Minister of Finance or whoever it is. But if you ask me, if let's say you have to resort to that, let that year be for that thing alone, so that at least you can cushion the blow on the people and not package it lump sum 3 and 4 things together. But I agree, when you find new markets, it will take time for value to come in, for actual money to come in.
Yes.
But going back to whatever that you mentioned earlier regarding travel expenses, 500,000 for Tun Mahathir to go to Nikkei, so that's one trip. Let's also focus on all the trips that PM has done and delegation, because Mahathir went to Nikkei. I don't think the delegation is so big, but when PM goes anywhere for trade visit, the delegation is huge. So for Mahathir, you mentioned about 500,000, and that was reported, right?
Reported, yeah.
So let's not talk about the bigger delegation. So now, after spending so much money, because this Marani government is not a 1-year government or 6-month government, it has been there for 2 years and a half, right? It's mid-year. So he has been traveling since day one he took office. So we would want to know, after X amount of money spent, how much money have we brought into the country? Because if not, then there's no point. If not, then it's more like a vacation than a trade visit. So that's the problem. So that's another thing.
There have been potentials though, potential inputs. So
yeah, I mean, like BERSATU has raised few concerns regarding some family member is also in the private jet and also enjoying my money and your money, whatever lah, that the government is paying for these people.
No names are being mentioned, but
it's just that I'm pretty sure that particular person is not part of the government. It's part of a family of a person who is in the government. So true enough, you need money. But rather than taxing people, can't you find within? Because in the government, when a minister go and meet a Minister of Finance to ask more money, they also won't give. They will tell you, go and work whatever you have within. So same concept applies. When government don't have money, probably you have to look at yourself within first before you come and...
But that's an interesting point. Are we too outwardly focused on FDIs and not focusing enough on our domestic market?
Yeah, that's true also. We are talking more about FDI. We're not talking about DDI so much. I think that has to be increased, and I totally agree. I don't have much to add.
Now, recently, the Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia, Bahagian Pago, has asked for the SST tax to be removed to reduce the financial burden on Malaysians, right? Now, in 2024, the SST contributed 44.7 billion in tax revenue. And with the expansion, it's expected an additional 5 billion in 2025 and 10 billion in 2026 extra. If we remove SST completely, or if we not expand it, as you will, what would be your proposed alternative?
Okay, I did not read the statement in full, but based on what you say, fair enough. You want to remove SST as a whole. It's just like how they removed GST as a whole.
Yeah.
When PH 1.0 took over office, the government has spent millions of money in setting up the GST system, and it was working to a large extent. Obviously, there was hiccup in rebates and stuff like that, but that system has been rolled out, and people have used it, and apparently MOF is happy with the results that they're seeing. But a government can come and change the taxation system just like that, just due to your manifesto. Many people argue at that particular point that that is not a good move.
Yeah.
Um,
You should have built on it.
you should have built on it because you have already invested on it. Let's say if you want to be a popular government, you probably announce a reduction of rate
Yes.
from 6% to probably 5% just to give that feel-good factor that I'm a new government, I want to walk my talk and stuff like that. But due to the manifesto and they are tied up to it, they threw away the whole thing. So if you ask me, the statement here is probably many Malaysians, probably economists or people who are more privy to finance, because I have a law background,
Yeah.
so very contrary. But I have a strong feeling, and I've been hearing a lot, that people are saying that the GST system is better.
It is better, but don't you think that perhaps this is, and something that you would probably also be able to relate to, if we revert back to a GST, that's political suicide. Because that would be the final nail in the coffin. And we know that your side is going to come up and say, hey, see, all their promises now gone. I mean, so that would be the reason why, even though we all can agree that the GST is a better, broader tax, that they can't do it because of political reasons. And plus, elections are just around the corner.
Cool.
Sorry. So what I'm trying to say is, are you all to be blamed for the fact that there's no GST now?
Okay, like this. We have to balance between two things. Just now, we really conquered an argument saying that they have to be responsible for the economy. The government must be responsible for the economy, and you have to have a good taxation system. So you cannot put politics in front of that.
But that's being idealistic. Come on, Harris. I mean, you would do the same.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, let's say if you are serious in governing, you have to make sure that during your era, you put the country at the right coordinate, at least, heading towards the right direction. And let's say if you are a statesman, you're Prime Minister of the country, you are deemed to be doing your job for the best interest of the people and the country. I think that has to be secondary. But let's say if you need to introduce GST because it's clearly outright better, might as well we make mistake now rather than we make mistake 5 years down the road. Because at the end of the day, when Najib introduced GST, it was a tough decision. And I don't think that brought him down. One MDB
No,
did.
of course not.
One MDB
Yeah,
did.
yeah, one MDB.
Not GST.
Yeah, not GST.
So as long as you can educate the people, as long as you can convince the people that it's not that we're making U-turn, but we have to be pragmatic. We have new informations and new strategies that we have to implement for 20, 30, 40 years down the road so that we don't have to go back and forth. So I think it's about biting the bullet. And I think talking about courage, Anwar Ibrahim extended Azam Baki due to courage. I think matters like this requires courage.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But come on. I can just see the opposition going, yes, let's go. Now, you have stated your support for the Himpunan Turun Anwar that's happening on the 26th of July. You and the ARMADA, basically, you guys be attending, right?
Yeah.
As the opposition member, as a part of the opposition, you are one of the big boys in this entire coalition. Do you think you're giving enough room for the government to govern by taking part or even endorsing this consistent number of rallies, protests, and not just contributing to the upliftment or solving of the problem? Basically what I'm trying to get at is, by doing this, are you giving enough room for them to govern instead of being worried about what the opposition would say, what the people would say, clouding the whole discussion?
Sure. I like the term enough room because I think Malaysians are very reasonable. You do not expect results in the first month or in the first year or in the first 100 days because they are a new government, new coalition, and new everything. But in your podcast, you had a student leader who came about a week ago.
Yeah.
And all these things didn't take place last time. You don't hear much about all these rallies last time. But why now? Because people already noticed that it has been 2 years and a half. So talking about enough room, I think 2 years and a half is a reasonable time for you to assess the government and have an opinion on them. And the report card is there. So if you are happy with whatever that is going on, then fair enough. But a lot of people are not. And that's why the students are doing what they're doing regarding... After seeing this government 2 years and a half, in their opinion, that this government is protecting the Perasuah in Sabah. Therefore, they don't want to stay quiet because they have seen it for 2 years and a half. So they brought the matter down the street. They brought the matter down. They burned his caricature and stuff like that. Same goes to this kind of rally. Because it has been 2 years and a half, we have given time for jika ditarikan saya menang hari ini, besok minyak turun and stuff like that. We have given time for that. We also have to given time. We also gave time for PTPTN because when they were in the opposition, PTPTN was something important.
Yes.
Free education, primary, secondary, university. And then Anwar also said that he cannot afford to see poor people paying their PTPTN loans. It should be excluded. So okay, fair enough. You're not going to scold him after a year or after 5 months, but after 2 years and a half, certain people have to be responsible for what they said last time. So,
But if you say Himpunan Turun Anwar, if Anwar Turun, who is the replacement? What's the alternative?
I'm not too sure. I mean, like, we are not trying to say that we want to topple the government. No, we believe in the democratic process. When election is called, we are going to participate. Turun Anwar, basically, you should step down and you choose anybody from your coalition.
Okay.
Zaid Hamidi, perhaps?
Come on.
Wait, why not? Deputy Prime Minister. Why not?
We all know you don't mean that. Okay, but just to pick up what you said, in a recent interview, you said that you were pleased that Perikatan Nasional had the support of young voters. This was right after your Sungai Bakap victory. Simply because they have a distrust towards Pakatan Harapan's sweet promises. That was the term that you used. So I just want to get your view on these promises that were made and perhaps your thoughts on how would you do it differently, right? So just for those of you all who may not remember, in right before, if I'm not mistaken, the 2018 GE, many promises were made in the manifesto. And I'm only talking about the ones that are youth related because you mentioned about youth voters. Number one is promise to create 1 million job opportunities within 5 years. Prioritizing technical and vocational education, TVET, emphasis on entrepreneurship support with grants and schemes, loans from Turun and ARMADA Iktihar, free higher education in public universities, postponing repayments for borrowers earning below 4,000 a month, scrapping of the blacklisting of PTPTN defaulters, pledge greater youth involvement in governance and public policy, and promise to make housing more affordable for young people, including rent-to-own schemes and better financing options. Fantastic promises, right?
Yep.
Now, perhaps you can share your take on individually. So when we go to the first two, which is basically more to youth employment, do you think it's feasible to create 1 million jobs within 5 years? Do you think a PN government could have done this, or would you have even suggested this?
First of all, I was in the minister's office in 2018 until 2022 when that was the Pakatan Harapan 1.0 government. A lot of manifestos we clearly know that it's not going to work. It's not feasible. It's not doable. But just for educational purposes, why do you say the manifestos were not feasible and were not doable? Yeah, because these people drafted the manifesto without knowing what's the actual situation in the ministries and actual situation in MOF. Because all these manifestos need money. It's either coming from corporate, GLIC, GLC, or government itself. So when you have no idea on what's the financial situation is and what's the ministry situation, it's not going to match. But of course, you have to add more juice, more sugar, and more meat into all these things so that you can sell your manifesto so that people vote for you. So more often than not, we find ourselves not able to do it. So the Madani manifesto as well, regarding, like I said, I mean, obviously these speeches were a long time ago.
Yes.
But obviously that's what they believe in.
But I just want to get your thoughts on this as well, just before we go to the next part. So like focus on TVET, let's focus on the one that really I think grabbed everybody's attention, which is two things. Number one is the free higher education in public universities. Do you think that is feasible?
Well, if you need to tax people today for other things, infrastructure and stuff like that, talking about free higher education, I don't see we can afford that now. But however, who asked you to make promises? I think that's the bigger point. Who asked you to make promises? because when you make promises, you have to hold on to it, and and if you make such promises, because the layman on the street wouldn't know all these things. They all know that, oh, I like this party because they promised me free education, they promised me employment, they promised me cheaper house. Therefore, I want to vote them in so that I can get all these things. So you have to be responsible for that, because if not, you are playing a fool with their with people. Actually, you are basically thinking that everybody is stupid and believing your rhetorics.
But Perikatan Nasional has not given a better alternative. And let me go deep into this. When I read your statements, right, I liked your approach to the way you discuss things, where you actually share, you actually focus on the issues that you want to address, right? Of course, we can't expect every politician to do everything, right? But you have your set issues that you focus on. But what difference I see between Perikatan and Pakatan is the methodology. If your approach, I said, is to focus, but then several of your party leaders have gone publicly and said that, look, vote for us first, then we will do. They have not offered a manifesto. They have not offered any counter proposals, a shadow budget, nothing. So how are you able, I mean, as the government in waiting, do you concur with this approach? Do you think that perhaps you should present your ideals so that the people can judge, as opposed to telling people, no, you vote for me first, then I will do?
Yeah, actually, correct. In all my political statements, in all my media statements as Ketua Penerangan ARMADA, every time I critique the government, I will have my proposed solution to it.
Yes.
And I'm a strong believer of that. I'm a strong believer that you need to have an alternative. You need to have a solution. You cannot just point out people's mistakes, because it's not going to make you better than them.
Correct.
So I think it's a question of timing. I've had conversation with my party leaders. We do have a framework that we are going to introduce to Malaysians. That is our offerings, and that is our solutions to issues. But I think the timing is quite critical, because if you share everything too fast, then your ideas will be taken, and then the government will do a lot of it, and then people might not have much reason to vote you in, because whatever you want to do has been done.
But that goes that sort of goes against what you just said, that it's about courage, right? You should put people first when you are in power. And as opposition, shouldn't you put the people first? Regardless of who takes your ideas, as long as it benefits the people, that's the right idea.
That's true. I mean, that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been doing, and that's what I will continue to do. But at the end of the day, both coalition is fighting for power. And there are strategies that both parties are going to use in order for them to get power. Talking about whatever that we're saying today, about all this SST, TNB, and all these things, is about money and cents. They need money. Why they need money? Because the election cycle is it is already past half.
Yeah.
So they need money, maybe because you want to introduce a very nice budget for next year. You want to reinstate the feel-good factor. You want to reinstate that Marani is the best government in the world. So you need cash. Therefore, probably that's their strategy. Next year will be a very nice year, where we give handouts, where we'll give everything, so that you vote for us when the time comes. Because probably it will be in 2027 or end of next year, when you already felt the majority of the budget. So that's their strategy, because they are in power to do that. They are in power to be able to do that. So as opposition, when we do not have that kind of power, you need to draw your own strategy. So I think this matter, although yes, you share your ideas, you sell your ideas so that they implement, but at the same time, do you have enough weapon? Do you have enough bullet to go and fight the regime if you don't strategize well now? So I think that's what it is.
But on that note as well, again, I think I want to just go back to what I said previously. I mean, there was a DAP statement April this year that saying that PN shadow government has been missing for 26 months. So just to quote, he said, despite forming a shadow government since February 2023, there has been no concrete policy counter proposals or alternative budgets to demonstrate how PN can better serve Malaysians. Now, you are right. And I think a lot of people will agree with you that perhaps they are doing this because they want to create a big budget. Right, because what I've heard rumors is the elections are coming after the budget, so that would be the thing. But as a voter, as a Malaysian, I want what's best for my country. I want what's best for my family, us all. I would expect PN to say, okay, despite their budget, this is our budget. This is what we are going to do. But do you think that we can expect that from your side?
Okay, Yes, I think this thing have to be done both ways, the government and also the opposition. Number one, yes, we have presented our shadow cabinet, but we don't call it shadow cabinet. We call it chairman of a portfolio. So some MPs, they are in charge of a portfolio.
Yeah.
But you need parliament to recognize them. Basically, you need to reform the parliament system where, for example, when finance minister speaks, the shadow minister of finance can intervene, or probably they can have a session between 20 minutes, half an hour, so that you really give the shadow finance minister a real opportunity to do his job. But if you treat him as an ordinary MP, then you won't see the full benefit of having shadows. So this is something that has to be done by Parliament as well. Number one, they have done a bit regarding the Prime Ministerial question time, where PM goes in and answer questions from abroad. But one step further would be a PMQ with opposition leader, like what we see in the Westminster system. And Westminster system also really recognize shadow ministers. And when an issue pertaining to that particular ministry, the shadow minister will be called to speak more compared to the normal MPs. So I think before you judge, or before anybody judge whether or not PN shadow ministers has the capability to run the country, to lead the ministry, you need to give them that recognition first, so that you can judge them based on their back and forth with the ministers. Because not all ministers are doing a great job. Rafizi Ramli in his podcast has said that he has been in the cabinet for 2 years plus. He said that the Ministry of Education didn't do anything. And then Fadlina also got upset about it. And then obviously the Minister of Tourism also had his fair share of
Issues. Yes.
So but then if you don't recognize shadow ministers, how do you see alternative? So that's my point.
I think we will all like to know what's happening to the PN HQ.
Yeah, basically,
Do you have a place to operate from?
basically it's simple. I mean, we don't own the building.
Okay.
We are renting the building, and the rental tenancy agreement has come to an end, and both parties have decided not to continue. Therefore, we are relocating ourselves to a new place.
So where's the Bat Cave going to be? Where's the
You will wait
the Justice League Centre?
from our SecGen of PN.
Okay.
But that's what it is.
Okay. No, but just
Yeah.
a bit of tongue in cheek there to lighten things up. But let's go back to BERSATU. And of course, this is a party that very prominent party, even in Parliament. There is, of course, your party elections that are coming up. And people are talking about a party restructuring. And but of course, there is also murmurings that certain members of BERSATU want Tan Sri Muhiyiddin removed as the head of the party. What is your thoughts on this?
Okay. Our party election ended end of last year.
Okay.
In
Party restructuring, sorry.
Restructuring. Our party election ended end of last year. Everything concluded in November. And Tan Sri Muhiyiddin won uncontested his presidential seat. And then now he has a new deputy president, Datuk Sri Hamzah Zainuddin, also won uncontested. That means everybody agreed on these two. And then part of Tan Sri Muhiyiddin's arrangement is to appoint Datuk Sri Azmin Ali as Secretary General. And Datuk Sri Faizal Azumu, or better known as Peja, has agreed to fill up the VP position. And that is Tan Sri Muhiyiddin's arrangement, and that arrangement has worked. And then now, as a member of BERSATU, when I see on stage during our National Assembly and stuff like that, I see Tan Sri Muhiyiddin is flanked by Datuk Sri Hamzah Zainuddin and Datuk Sri Azmin Ali as SecGen. I really see power in them. I really see a strong team in that trio. So the party looks promising at the top, and I really think that Tan Sri Muhiyiddin is receiving a big support from people, because on this topic as well, 1 year before the recent General Assembly, Perhimpunan Agung Tahunan, in Tan Sri Muhiyiddin's keynote speech, he said that it's time for me to not continue for the next term as president, for me to give opportunity to other people to fill up that position. And I have done whatever I can. I will still contribute to the party on in other capacity, but not as president after this term expires.
Okay.
So he has thrown out that idea. So let's say if he did not have support or if people want to get rid of him, that would be the time. Because he already wanted to go.
Exactly.
But everybody who spoke on that Congress, on that on the day, urged him to reconsider this, urged him to continue as a president for another term, because the party needs him. We need him for stability. He's a founding member of the party. He's also the founding president of the party, and I think he is a uniting factor. He unite the party really well. So when he decided to contest, he said, "Okay, I heard all your opinions. I've consulted a few people, and I'm ready to offer myself as president. If anybody is not happy, you go and fight him
Okay.
and see what happens." So he won uncontested. Therefore, there's no issue whether or not he's a poster boy. The Perikatan Nasional top leadership will discuss that and will decide who is our calon Perdana Menteri and so on.
Just to stick on Bersatu's leadership, of course, a few months ago, Dato Sri Hamzah came on the KS podcast as well, and he said that there was no need to name a prime ministerial candidate, right? And even PAS has said that they are not after the prime ministerial candidate because they are after more serving people and all that. But traditionally in Malaysian politics, the biggest party in a coalition tends to name the prime minister. That's why UMNO has always been the prime minister candidate. They always named one. And in your coalition, PAS is the bigger party in terms of MP seats.
Yeah.
So shouldn't the PM candidate come from them and not from you guys?
Okay, it's a very strategic move. PAS is the biggest party in the country, not just within Perikatan Nasional, in the whole country. They're the biggest party as far as a member of parliament is concerned.
I think there are 4 states, I think, right?
4 states, MB, and then MPs in the region of 40s, slightly more than DAP.
Yeah.
But they are not opposition leader, somehow or other. They realize that Hamzah has to be the opposition leader.
Why so?
For whatever reason, because I'm not too sure why, but Datuk Sri Hamzah seems very capable in doing that job, and PAS realized that too. And PAS has given him opportunity to lead the opposition bench. And although being the biggest, but they are also very realistic, and they pick the best from who we have. So the norm that you mentioned is probably the UMNO norm. In Perikatan Nasional, we have our own style. Similarly, pengurusi Perikatan Nasional, the chairman of Perikatan Nasional is Tan Sri Muhiyiddin, who is the president of BERSATU. But as you mentioned, PAS is the bigger party since 2022, since the elections. And now we are in 2025. Tan Sri Muhiyiddin is still the chairman of PN. So yeah, we are realistic in that. So they will sit down and they will discuss how many seats you have, how many seats we have. That's one part. Who do we have among us? Who is the most promising? Who can unite everybody? Who is the best front face? There are a lot of things. There are a lot more things. Yeah.
Who do you think should be the next PM candidate from your side?
Based on the studies that we are conducting, out of all our leaders, Tan Sri Muhiyiddin is still the most popular politician, based on the study that we did. Obviously, we will do more studies, and at the end of the day, the Presidential Council will decide on this.
Okay. Now let's go to the last segment of this, and that is I want to focus on the coming general elections. To me, my personal opinion, please share your thoughts on this. I think the battlefield for the coming general elections will be the non-Malay votes. Because I think from the people even within Bersatu whom I've spoken to, I think it's fair to assume that the Malay vote will still go to PN. PN will hold with PAS and Bersatu. I think you guys will still hold it. And with all the news about Anwar, unfortunately, PMX has not been able to, I think, secure way more than what he did last. Maybe a bit more, but I think PN will hold the last chunk. But it's the two groups. I think it's the voters who will abstain from voting, and the non-Malay and the non-Malay voters who will go out to vote. Right. So in this, do you think that having PAS in the PN coalition has become a double-edged sword? Because on one end, you get 4 states. They are, as you say, the strongest party in parliament now. But on the flip side, they also alienate non-Malay voters to coming to PN.
Not really. They are doing their job as a political party. So as a political party, PAS have its own struggle and belief. So they are capturing their market. It's just that they are doing their job really, really well. They are capturing a lot of their market. So BERSATU is also doing our part. We captured significant amount of MP seats. But talking about whether or not pass is a double-edged sword, I don't think so. Because I think the only issue that we have is Gerakan is not able to contribute seats.
Yeah.
If Gerakan is able to contribute seats, then it's going to be good. But that's the problem. For example, in PH, their weakest link is Amanah. But Amanah also contributed about 7 or 8 seats in Parliament. So although it's a weakest link, but they are also contributing some. So in our case, Gerakan is finding it difficult to contribute seats. Obviously, we are also helping them in opening the Bersekutu wing within our party to strengthen the non-Malay agendas. So that's one thing that we hope that by elections that will be strengthened, and hopefully Gerakan will find a solution to make their party a bit more relevant to their target market. And interestingly, I don't think the coalition for the going into the next election will be the same. I have a strong feeling that 3 parties will have to decide where they're going to go. MCA, if they want to progress as a party. MIC, MUDA. I think these 3 parties have to decide where they're going. And let's say if we manage to come up with an agreement, might not join PN fully, but there are a lot of ways to get this thing done. You might see some non-Malay supports coming to us due to this party having some relationship. Because, for example, MCA, if they're interested to grow as a political party, you cannot be in that coalition because the AP has won almost everything.
Exactly.
So if you want to grow, UMNO is not going to give you Malay seats to contest. That's not the working arrangement. Similarly, MIC. And all these political parties want to move because political party is about moving, expanding and stuff like that. So if you can't in your coalition, you might as well think about something else. And I'm pretty sure all these matters are discussed in their Supreme Council. And of course MUDA as well. So Syed Saddiq is an MP who used to support them and now no longer support. He helped them to pass that constitutional amendment by voting under 18. I chat with him recently. He said that not a single cent is given to his constituency, and he's still doing all these side jobs to
Side jobs.
to help Maureen. So their patience can be exhausted too.
Yeah.
And I think MUDA as well will have to decide on that because going solo, I think everybody have learned the lesson last elections and last PRN. I'm not too sure if any political party wants to go solo this time around.
But maybe you can explain this for the non-Malay voters, right? What is BERSATU's agenda for the non-Malay population in Malaysia? Because although you have Bersekutu, and which is your non-Malay wing, I think the perception out there is that BERSATU is a Malay party. It's a Malay nationalistic party, like UMNO, that maybe does not care so much for the non-Malays. I think that's why perhaps you guys have struggled to bring forth. Even the frustrated votes, have not necessarily gone to PN. We saw in the Kuning elections, they went to PSM, right, a smaller party. So what is your agenda for the non-Malay people?
Actually, BERSATU is not purely a Malay party.
Okay.
It is a Bumiputra party, but we have a lot of national agenda in it. So we are a national party. But obviously you need to have a platform and you need to have a trust. So our trust is Pribumi Bumiputra. And that is the trust of the party, and we have expanded the party to also accommodate Bersekutu, the non-Malays, to join this party so that we can hybrid the opinions, things that are important for the non-Malays, things that are important for the Malays, 153 and MA63, and all these things, so that we have everybody in the party to hybrid all these ideas into one.
Yeah.
Back to your question, when Tan Sri Muhiyiddin was Prime Minister, I think you can see BERSATU in that government, which is the need-based, not race-based. Need-based, not religion-based. Vaccination was given across. Not just across, because it's a very simple thing, but nobody got special treatment. It's either, like if you're Warga Mas, you take it first, and then you're a frontliner, you take it first, and then everyone else is the same. Regardless, you're Malay, you're Indian, you're Chinese, you're Iban, Kadazan, or whatever. So that the country, people prosper, country prosper. So that Muhiyiddin's pentadbiran has really shown what BERSATU is all about. That's number one. Number two, quoting Dr. Wee Ka Siong. Dr. Wee Ka Siong said that he was in Muhiyiddin's cabinet. He said during that tenure, not once cabinet decided, cabinet much considered highly about one race and let alone put aside other races. So everything was decided based on need, based on who needs government's help and stuff like that. So when Tan Sri Muhyiddin was leading the government, I really saw what Bersatu is all about. What the party is all about was mirrored in that pentadbiran.
Okay. Now, just one last thing. Of course, recently, Indra Makuta MP Dato Sri Saifuddin Abdullah, he has said that Bersatu cannot just rely on frustrated votes. Kita nak juga menawarkan sesuatu yang lebih konkret, iaitu konsensus nasional baru. Itu adalah suatu kerangka besar dari segi kesepaduan rakyat. Again, he's another MP that I like. I've always liked Dato Sri Saifuddin. I thought he's a very moderate, progressive kind of guy. What is your opinion? In your opinion, as the head of ARMADA's information unit, what should be the focus or what should be the strategy that Bersatu employs in the next general elections?
Yeah. First of all, number one, you need to field candidates that are capable of running the country, because that will be seen and that will be judged.
Yeah.
If you field proper candidates, highly qualified, balance between the seniors, the young, women, and all these things, you will attract a lot of voters. That's number one. Because I really feel people want change. People really want change. But they just want to see what do you have to offer. So if you have a nice lineup of people, you have nice potential ministers that are capable with public confidence in them, you have a clear PM candidate that they can rely on and they can agree on, that will be good. That's number one. Number two, we might not have manifesto on every single thing, on school, on cars, on tax, on everything, but on pertinent issues, I think we should have something on what's our economic plan like, what is our strategy to bring up wages, what is our strategy to make sure that the taxation system is good. I think the core things and few important reforms, judiciary, police, MACC, and stuff like that. Because I have one thing to add. 2018, when Pakatan Nasional government fell, Najib fell, obviously there were a lot of reasons. GST was probably part of it. 1MDB was a big part of it. Was a big part of it.
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
Third is, I think people really had no confidence in institution at the time. Because if we bring back to 2027, to 2017, to 2018, we really felt that yes, executive is given so much power, Prime Minister is given so much power, ministers are given so much power, but institutions are our defense. Police, MACC, Parliament, Judiciary, SPR are there for us, to protect us. And at the time, I felt that these institutions were not there to protect us anymore. Hence why SPR could agree or could come up with the decision to have an election on a Wednesday, so that, let's say, if the turnout is low, probably Pakatan Nasional will win because the older generation will still vote for them. So what is that all about? So I think protecting institution is very important, because that is our backup to regulate these people, because these people are given so much power. Only institution can help us. So I think Perikatan Nasional must also come out with what's our plan to strengthen institutions, so that because now rakyat is very tired of politics.
Yes.
Rakyat thinks that you go up is the same.
Yes.
So now you need to install confidence in them by providing a good reform on institutions that are really strong and can do their job as MACC, as police, as whatever, would make rakyat think that these people are quite serious, and if they are given power, these institutions can at least check them, because they have promised that they are going to empower these institutions. Not many things have been said regarding institutions, actually. I think that is something that we have to tackle.
Do you think that, or maybe this will be better, if Perikatan, the government in waiting, comes into power, will your policies be blanket policies, or will you still play the same sort of racially biased policies that we have? Policies such as associated with minimum wage, housing, and all these important areas. Will they be blanket policies or will it be racially biased?
All right. First of all, everybody have to understand that all ministers, Prime Minister, MPs are bounded by oath. And the oath says a lot about upholding Constitution. So whatever that is in the Constitution from the first article until the end has to be defended and has to be granted because that is the highest law of the land. So that is one thing.
Yeah.
Other things, I think you have to use a lot of data. It has to be a data-driven government. Money has to be spent based on need and not race or religion. And sensitivity of religion have to be factored in everything, and sensitivity of races as well. But like I said, provisions in the Constitution must not be neglected. So that has to be protected. And other things has to be data-driven, and other thing has to be logic, sensible.
Okay. So Harris, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on, man. I truly had fun. I hope you had a good time talking. You really come across as a very, a great leader, and I hope to see you in Parliament one day.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this podcast. Thanks for giving us voice.
Guys, there we go, man. Armada's head, Ketua Penerangan Armada Bersatu, Mr. Harris Idaham Rashid, and Ketua Bahagian Bersatu Balik Pulau. See, if you guys come on this podcast, we can talk and you can expose yourself. It's amazing, man. I would love to have you back again.
Yeah.
Maybe before you run for the next seat, come over here. Let's
hopefully, we'll do that one more.
Thanks, buddy. So, guys, there we go. Bersatu is here. So, pass all other component parties of PN. Please accept my request and come on the podcast and let's find out what you think about the country, the future, as we head to the next general elections. We'll see you all soon, guys. Take care. Bye.